And then all the way to Southern California, where we find our Josh Haskell with KABC. He's been following the protests there. If we could switch to Josh in Los Angeles, where he's been covering the protests. Right behind him, you can see the encampment there. Josh, before we went to the House Speaker, I was just asking you about how high up the chain has this gone. Depending on the campus, there have been calls for resignations for presidents to get the boot because of these protests and the violence that has taken place on various campuses. Let us know, or give us an update rather, on things there at USC and how far up the chain this has gone.
Well, as I was saying, this all really started with a specific USC issue within the last 2 weeks when their valedictorian, Asna Tabassum, she was scheduled to speak, as all valedictorians do, at USC's graduation, which is coming up now in about a week or so. And she was asked not to speak because of her views and some of the posts that she had liked and posted. One of the links was to a document that called for the abolishment of Israel, and she was asked not to speak at graduation. That's when things really started here. That's when we actually started to hear some of those calls for some of the top administrators here to be held accountable. Now, since that had happened, it had never turned into what we've seen earlier today. What have we seen? We saw the Department of Public Safety go into what really was a peaceful encampment, a Solidarity for Gaza encampment that we have seen all across the country on college campuses. But once they went in to take down infrastructure, which included tents and signs, that's when students, and I have to say that some of the protesters here, many actually that I've just spoken with recently, are not students. People have come from outside the campus community. That's when they faced off with the Department of Public Safety. It got ugly real fast. One of the students was detained. He was released. So things are pretty calm right now. I want to give you just a glimpse of what the scene is, but I can tell you that that has emboldened the movement here on the University of Southern California's campus. This protest, when we first arrived at 10 a.m. Pacific time this morning, was about 80 people. Now you can see it's grown to what feels like 300 plus, and as we just pan a little bit to the side, you can see there's just sort of students gathered all around as class is in session, so people are stopping, some are joining in, and we also have reports that because the Department of Public Safety here at USC was really outnumbered by the amount of people here, that they have called in the Los Angeles Police Department for help. We know that the LAPD is staging nearby. We don't know exactly what their plans are, what that looks like. There are fears here that it could get ugly again real fast, but I can tell you that although most of the tents were confiscated and although most of the signs were taken away, it's come back, as we just showed you. And these students here and protesters tell us that they are not going away anytime soon. So I can tell you here today, it's been asking the university to divest from Israel. I have not heard those specific calls for Carol Folt, the USC president, to step down, or the provost, but there's been tension here for a few weeks, as I gave you that context of what happened with the valedictorian, Kira.
And so, Josh, what exactly are the protests asking for specifically? Do you see this as just sort of a part of what's going on across the country? I know that students have been talking to other students of similar organizations and sort of rallying to get these protests up and going across the country. But what are these students telling you they want exactly?
They're telling us that they want the university to divest, separate any connections that the university has to the state of Israel, to anything connected to the Israeli government. I've asked them for specifics. I've not been told what that looks like in those specifics, but a lot of them are mentioning Asna Tabassum. Again, that valedictorian. They want her to speak. I've heard chants here today that said, let her speak, let her speak. I've not seen her out here today, but she is a figure that, was already well known on campus, and she's sort of been a rallying cry for a lot of students and really the larger Los Angeles community who supports this movement to divest from Israel in any way possible. But as we just showed you, People are chanting, they're singing, they're seated on the ground. I also want to tell you, I spoke with a student a short time ago. She told me she's in finals, but she said that it's more important to be out here than take her finals. She feels like they're taught about the world in class, and this is the world happening right in front of her. And so that's kind of the scene here. And I also have to reiterate again, I was struck by the number of people who I interviewed who were adults, older, younger, not students. We have been highlighting these protests throughout the country. We know that there was one at UC Berkeley. As far as Los Angeles, this has been the first really active one, and you can tell the Los Angeles community is coming here to USC's campus. They have not closed the gates, and we're told maybe LAPD may be coming as well, Kira.
Well, and Josh, this is not the first time we've gone to the campus of USC. I mean, when the war broke out initially, I mean, let's go back to October 7th, when that terrorist attack on behalf of Hamas, rolled in on that music festival. There were protests happening there on the USC campus, and we started covering just the student uprising that was happening at that point, when we saw students going down and ripping down the pictures of hostages that had been taken by Hamas. The controversy goes back to October 7th on this campus.
Yeah, and there's actually been an agreement with how the university, back to October 7th and more recent with the valedictorian, a lot of people on both sides of this conflict upset with how the university handled it. And I had some Jewish students come up to me, Kira, and they told me we are scared. They've made the university's poor handling of the situation has directed anger at us. And I've seen some of those same students here today. And I have to tell you that, as is many of these protests, we've been hearing from the river to the sea. We've been hearing LAPD, KKK, they're all the same. So some of the chants that we're hearing have made a lot of the students here from all sides very uncomfortable. This is a divided campus right now. Tensions are high, and you are right to highlight. It has been that way here since October 7th. Things calmed slightly, and in the last few weeks, reignited, and now, as I told you, students are missing their finals to be out here to protest the university's connections to the state of Israel and join students from across the country.